Okay, Mark, I'm confirming the recording is started.
Okay, I'm going to be taking it off of mute now. Good evening, everyone. This is the town manager, Mark Schota. Everyone is off mute. Please put your phones on mute. The council meeting is ready to begin. The meeting will now begin with Chair Triano.
Thank you, Mark. Right now, could we have the roll call, please?
Is Kathy Larkin online? In that case, I'll do the roll call. Christopher Poulos.
Don't forget to take your phones off mute, everyone.
Christopher Poulos. Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Diedzik.
Here.
Attorney DiPaolo.
Here.
Mr. Del Santo.
Present.
Mr. Chaplinsky.
Here.
Vice Chair Lombardi.
I'm here.
Chair Triano.
I'm present.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Town Manager. At this point in time, I would just like to welcome all of the townspeople that are here by phone or by video or whatever. Just welcome to this town council meeting, Monday, April 13th. It's a little after 7 o'clock. The dial number in is 1-646-749-3122 with an access code of 699-770-341. Having said that, I would like to just lead us in a prayer followed by a short time of respect for those that have passed this week. Southington had a number of folks that have passed this week due to the virus, and we want to honor them, and then we'll have our flag salute. So would you please stand? Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Almighty God, that you are with us and that you're always here for us. Father, we ask your blessings tonight. Lead us and guide us in our community. Father, bless us in this community. Keep your hand upon us. And as we go through this meeting, Father, let your will be done. And Father, just guide us, Father. Amen. And now a moment of silence, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. We're getting a handle on all of this technology. I want to thank Jay Baker and Councilman Chaplinsky and all those that have had working on this all week so that we could present our town council meeting, and I think we're doing so good right now. Okay, councilperson's communication. I have a couple. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
Minutes first, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 9th and March 23rd.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Second, Mike Del Santo.
Both meetings, Mike?
Yes.
I'm chair.
Yep. Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is Bill
opposed?
Dietzick. I abstain with respect to 3920 and approve the 320-320.
Thank you, Bill. Yep, very good. Now we're at councilman
Madam
communication. Excuse me?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Valerie.
Yes.
Need to abstain from the 3-9 minutes.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you, Val. Anybody else? Any other changes?
So 3-9 is 702. 323 is 90.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson's communication. Do anybody have any communication for the council this evening? Anybody?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay. Go ahead.
First of all, just in general, I just wanted to say great work to Jane and town staff for the work that they're doing to help us through the crisis that we have here. The entire town staff, everybody's pitching in, and very much appreciate the abundance of communication. I won't go too deep on that because I'm sure others will touch on it as well. I just wanted to reach out and say thank you, and also say thank you to all the first responders and for all the folks who are helping keep things going in Southington, whether it's a store, hospital, you name it, our police, fire, etc. So thank you. The second item, Madam Chair, that I wanted to bring up was I noticed that on the agenda we didn't have the topic of the resident on Blatchley Avenue who was having some flooding in their backyard. I
Yes.
think it's been a little bit of a crazy time over the last month. So I just ask if we could please take a note and have a report out at the next meeting. I know there's been some communications. I did touch base with the resident as well. And I'd like to use rain maybe as a proof point and also have a report out from staff as to what's happened there.
Madam Chair, this is Mark Shota. You received a report from Jim Grappone at your last meeting or the one before, but I'll get an update for you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, I think that's great. Thank you, Paul. Yes, we should really hear about that. Anyone else have any council matter communication?
Madam Chair, Mike Del Santo.
Yes, Mike.
I just wanted to just say again, the support of the town of Southington for our local businesses who have been struck just so hard, just devastating loss of business over these last few weeks. If you can, as council folks, if you happen to see something on social media, if a local business is advertising something, if you can share it, you know, and to try to reach out to as many people as we can, it would be greatly appreciated. We want the businesses in Southington to know that we stand behind them and we support them, and we look forward for this thing to be over so they can get back to business, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, you know, we're really right. We are, this is kind of the hub that we're just approaching. We need to stick together. We need to support our local businesses and our first responders, our nurses, our doctors, all of that. We've got to pull together as a community now more than ever. And I know some people are tired. It's like, I just want to get out. Yesterday was kind of difficult, wasn't it? For Easter, we're just all segregated. We're not in a big family gathering, but it's, if we stay to the plan, if we stay focused going forward, we'll see the end of this thing much faster. Very good. Thank you, Mike. Anybody else? I have just a couple of things. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but I received, just to bear witness with some of the other things that were spoken, I received a letter today written by one of the volunteers who's there all the time at Community Services. And it says, she wrote it to Mark and to Chief Daly. And it said, I'm writing this email to let you know the extraordinary efforts of one of your police officers. Officer Kristen Muir and her son and two of their friends spent the entire day on Good Friday delivering Easter baskets to the children of clients of Community Services. They made deliveries to over 79 families and gave nearly 200 children an Easter that may have not have happened had they not otherwise. It took them the entire day, but at the end, all the baskets were delivered. Additionally to Kristen, other police officers have been assisting Janet at the office with receptionist duties and delivering food bags to homebound families. It is with great pride that I forward this to you. And I just wanted to give a public acknowledgement of that. They're not the only folks. I know we've got people out there all the time doing good stuff. And we're going to try to recognize those people that have done exemplary things within the community during this very difficult time. The other thing that I have is I've already mentioned the Hartford Healthcare Hotline. And I want to just say to our residents, if you're not feeling well, if you show any symptoms of the virus, don't be frightened. Just contact your doctor. And if you're not sure of the symptoms, you can call the Hartford Healthcare Hotline. It's at 860-972-8100. And in Southington, we also have Bristol Healthcare, which I didn't realize they also have a hotline number for the COVID virus. And the Bristol Healthcare hotline is 860-261-6855. So I want to give that out to everybody. And please, if you're not feeling well, if you think you might have somehow contracted the virus, don't sit around at your house. Call your doctor. Make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do. Get well quick. And, but don't put it on the back burner thinking you're going to just, handle this on your own. Please don't be foolish. Call your doctor, and, or if you have any questions, call the hotline number. They're wonderful there. So that's it. Yes.
We have Councilman Poulos who would like to also say something.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Chris Poulos. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary work of Southington Public Schools, Superintendent Kennellan and his team, the Board of Education. As a parent of an elementary school student, a middle school student, as a high school teacher who is engaged in distance learning from the instruction side, they have done an extraordinary job in a short period of time to keep the academic programs running at our schools, but also they're very sensitive to the social and emotional needs of our students and families in this process. Trust me, I interact with teachers, administrators, and schools across the state and country. Southington has done an excellent job, and we need to recognize them for that hard work they've done.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Chris Palmero, I think you have a comment also?
Yes. If a couple things. First of all, to your point, I just like to acknowledge a resident in town. His name is Nick Thompson, for using his own 3D printer to create PPE devices. And so far he has made 50 of those devices, which were delivered to our first responders, our Southington police officers and firefighters. So I think he's making some more, which we hope to deliver to nursing homes. And it's all been coordinated through Shane. So I just want to give him a shout out, and we appreciate everything he's done so far and will continue to do.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that effort for sure. That's wonderful. Yep, very good. Another one? Yep, sure.
A couple of things. First of all, I also would like to especially acknowledge Hartford Healthcare. Vicki, you and I, as well as Shane and the town manager, Mark Shota, had requested a meeting specific to what was going on in Southington, at the Bradley campus, and what's being done for our own community. And Hartford Healthcare has really done a phenomenal job of making sure that Southington's needs are met. So I want to acknowledge them. And I know Dr. Asciutto is with us tonight, but I do just want to give them a shout out and praise for all they're doing for our community. It's very much appreciated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Anything else?
Yeah, one more, Vicki, just a logistical thing. I don't know if it's to you or to Paul. I saw in our packets, we have the plans for Pleasant Street, the master plan, but it's not on the agenda. So can I make a motion to add to the agenda to take action on that tonight? We've been talking about it for a while.
Sure, you can. I know Paul was going to do it too. So, Chris, I'll entertain your motion, Chris. And Paul, could I have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we're going to add it to the report. We'll do the report. Is that okay, Paul? You'll still talk about it during your report, but let's add it to old business item J.
Correct. It'll be the adoption of Pleasant View master plan for open space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Master plan. Very good.
Really farm heritage open space. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good. Is there anyone else with a comment or something to add tonight? Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. Right now, I would like to ask Shane. I think Shane is on the line. Is that correct? Shane, are you with us?
I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, Shane Lockwood is our health director within our district, and well, I'll tell you, between he and Mark, it's not a day that doesn't go by that we have to have some kind of meeting. So, Shane, I'm so glad you're with us, and I know Dr. Lena Asciutto is going to speak after you. So, Shane, would you just get us up to date with the status here in town?
Certainly. Thank you for having me for the meeting. I think we're quickly approaching the peak. I've been saying for weeks, I think it's going to be mid to late April, and I think our numbers are reflecting that. Just so you know, as we hear on the news where we're talking about getting back to normal, reopening, that's still a ways away. Every day my day starts with going in and looking at the new cases that we're seeing in town. And some days it's 10 to 15. So we're still ways away from returning to normal.
Right.
So all the social distancing that we've done, I beg that we continue it. Now is not the time to let up. So we have over 400 signs around town, and I ask that we try and honor that. Excuse me. So right now we're working daily with Hartford Healthcare. We have conference calls daily. We're also working with local, regional, state, and federal partners. We're starting to make some progress with the PPEs. As Chris mentioned, we had a former student who donated over 50. That was helpful. We're also starting to get supplies from the state right now. Excuse me. So, and we've been distributing them to the nursing homes, first responders, the dialysis center. So we're starting to make some ground with this. We're getting good reports on the parks and the trail. I say 99% of the people are using them appropriately, keeping 6 feet apart. So we're happy to see that, but I know we're checking that daily. Our CERT team is helping Bread for Life deliver food. I think about 7 people right now. So the CERT team is doing great. And I know Chris Poulos mentioned the distance learning for the Board of Ed. The other great initiative that they're doing is the feeding program. So every, I think Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they're delivering or they're making food for over 200 families in the school system. And they are actually continuing this week, even though they're technically on April break. So that's 200 local families that rely on the school system for food. And every day, 3 times a week, they're still making sandwiches, making food, and getting out to families. So they should be commended for that. First responder-wise, I'm talking to our first responders every day, answering questions. So like I said, we're making progress with the PPEs. We're going to continue to promote social distancing. We have more signs going up, and we're updating our website daily. So, so I think as a town, we're doing all that we can. I think we're in decent shape. I really want to commend Hartford Healthcare because they've been a tremendous partner to us locally.
I know I join you often times with that morning meeting with Hartford Healthcare, and it's quite informative. So I agree. Any questions for Shane? And please identify yourself. I got a text message from someone who said, please be mindful that we can't see the person. So please just identify yourself before you speak, please. Questions for Shane? No other questions? Val, you have a question? Val DiPaolo?
You're muted, Val. You're muted.
How's that, better?
Yep.
Better? Okay. Shane, in your last report with us, you had talked about the nursing homes, and we were in pretty good shape with that. Is that still looking okay, the nursing homes in our town?
They are. So for Southington, the nursing homes are still looking good. We've been in contact with them. We've dropped off supplies to them in the past week, and I haven't heard of any issue. But that also reminds me, I also have to thank the Southington Police Department. So about 2 to 3 weeks ago, they assigned a officer to the health department to work with us, Mike Bearball, and he's been busy delivering supplies, putting up signs. He probably puts in a good 6 hours a day just for the health department alone. He's the other really helpful aspect is we get a lot of calls from people concerned about businesses that are still open, and Officer Bearball is able to talk to the businesses, make sure they understand the governor's executive order, and then we have signs that help businesses, such as to remind customers of social distancing. And Officer Bearball is able to deliver those signs and just work with it. And I think it's been a tremendous asset for not just the health district, but also for local businesses.
Right. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yep. Anyone else? Any other questions for Shane? Shane, thank you so much. for your input. I don't think there's any other questions. I appreciate it. We all appreciate your work. Stay strong, Shane. We need you for a few more weeks anyway. And then you can go on a trip someplace. But for right now, we need you. So thank you, Shane, very much. Okay, Dr. Asciuto, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Oh, it's great to have you. Welcome to our meeting, Dr. Len Asciuto. And I believe, Doctor, that you are the head of medical practices over at Bradley. So if you could just take it from here, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate technology where we can do this at a distance, but I much rather appreciate being there in person with all of you one day again.
Yes.
So, as you stated, I'm president of the medical staff, and as everyone knows, they look at the numbers. So what I want to do this evening is to provide some information to you and answer any questions that you might have pertaining to our region. The numbers worldwide, it's 1.9 million. In the States, it's about 600,000 cases, almost, with 23,000 deaths. But here in the state of Connecticut, we've had 12,000 confirmed cases. 1,654 have been hospitalized. This was as of 2 days ago. And there were 554 deaths. We've only tested 41,000 of our people here in Connecticut. As you know, testing still is not widespread or available at this point to many. According to the state lab reports, as of April 12th, Southington has had 85 COVID positive patients. In comparison, New Britain had 136, Meriden had 113, Cheshire had 49, Plainville 31, and Bristol 145. Specifically to our region, there have been 161 COVID positive admissions at both the New Britain campus and at the Mid-State Medical Center. Over at 161, 88 have been discharged, but of those, 80, but of those, 22 have passed away. 8 were from New Britain, 14 from Mid-State, and 56 though have been discharged home, which is a good number. Today, as of this morning, we had 81 patients in our region, 49 of them at the New Britain campus. Of those 49, 19 are in the ICU, with 16 of them on ventilators. Mid-State had 32 patients, with 15 in the ICU and 11 on the ventilator. So that's our up-to-date report as far as what's happening. I'd be more than pleased to answer any questions that the town council might have so that we could share information to our community.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Len, could you explain the triage trailer in front of the hospital right now?
Yes, that's utilized so that we can determine where that patient would be best treated. Is it someone that's going to, so that we don't potentially infect other people? And that's been placed in other campuses as well.
So a person would go to that place before they even go into the emergency room. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and at that point, when you have an idea of what really is going on, they would be assigned either to another hospital, or then they can go into the emergency room and be treated for emergency room things. Is that correct?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay. Does anyone have any further questions for Dr. Asciuto? I know it's always an important topic. So I just want to see if there's anybody else that has any questions. Yes, Paul?
No, I just wanted to say, this is Paul. Thank you to Dr. Asciuto for clarifying. There's sometimes some misinformation about some of the key statistics and the roles that our various medical institutions are playing. So I appreciate you coming and attending the town council meeting and really clarifying exactly what the numbers are and where things are happening. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay.
Can I then, if there
Yes.
aren't any other questions, can I just then ask, as a town council, I know that many people come to you, and if you can do three things, please. One is provide confidence to the citizens that, if they should have a health need, we are very well prepared to take care of them. We have anticipated a surge. As Shane was talking earlier, we have not quite reached a peak yet, but we are more than ready to handle what might come forward. So, and I think at this time when there's a lot of anxiety and people are just scared, you can confidently tell them that we are prepared and well equipped to deal with, if it should be COVID, we can handle those cases. Number two is sometimes people want to know where to go to get information. Refer them to, a trusted and respected resource such as cdc.gov or portal.ct.gov. That's where you can get a lot of the information. Lastly, if you could please encourage the townspeople and emphasize what Shane had mentioned earlier, right? The social spacing, washing our hands, and wearing a face mask outside, even a scarf or anything of that nature, which prevents potential spread. Our town, the numbers wise, as I look at the number of admissions that we've had to the hospital in either hospital, has been fairly low, and I believe it's because people have been paying attention, but we cannot let our guard down, and we need to constantly encourage, and in this manner, we will keep our town safe and be able to handle what might come forward. And that's all I wanted to say, and I thank you for the opportunity.
We thank you, Dr. Lynn, very much for all your years of service right here in Southington. I know our generation, our parents' generation, all have found solace and comfort under your care. And so we just really appreciate you being with us. Now, Shane and Dr. Sciutto, there's no more questions for you, so you can probably catch the television program that you were watching prior to the town council meeting. But we do thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night now. Thank you. Right now, that was very good, don't you think, everybody? Right now, we're going to have our library presentation, and I see Jeff is here. I saw him a minute ago, and so I'm going to hand it off to our library for Christy. Are you going to start this off for us?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just take a moment.
Sure, of course.
Okay. I'm good to share the slides with everyone, correct?
Yes.
All right. So as all right, there you all are. As you know, we have.
Could you just for the people at home, just tell them what slides you're on, because obviously they're on the website and they see the slides there. Just tell them what slide you're talking about so they know you're talking.
Sure. This is the cover slide. It's showing a picture of our 1974 library. It's looking a little rough in that picture, if I can editorialize. But we are here today to talk about the library. The library is a building, and what we've been working on as a board. As you know, we're a premier resource for information learning and cultural enrichment for the community. And the building that we're in, our 21,000 square foot building, no longer meets ADA, fire, or building codes. It has failing mechanical systems, insufficient capacity in our program rooms, clustered seating, inadequate collection space, especially in our children's department, inadequate storage, no acoustic separation, no quiet spaces, no space for children developmental skills, and no private meeting spaces. We've talked to the community several times. Their top 4 wishes are for ADA accessibility, such as a larger elevator, adequate space between aisles, accessible shelving, more space for children to learn and explore, less noise, and public meeting rooms, not just for our programs spaces, but for tutoring, group study, and small businesses. Let's see here. Zooming ahead here, we're looking at the budget that Jeff has put together for a proposed building plan, and I'm going to let him take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Christy. So we analyzed a handful of different schemes, custom tailoring them to the responses we've received from the committee to come up with this, which is the final preferred scheme represented here at about 25,550 square feet. And if you let your eyes come down to the highlighted line about in the middle of the slide, it shows the total construction cost, or I should correct myself there. I mean, it's not the total construction, it is the total project cost, not only construction, but also all of the miscellaneous project expenses that are going to be part of the project, such as the fees and the consultants and the engineering that has to go into the project to get it to come online. If we zoom in with the next slide, you can see a better breakdown of the top part of this estimate, which talks about the different categories of costs that we looked at from, in this case, the preferred scheme had no renovations to the existing library because all of the existing building would be removed in the preferred scheme and an entirely new library constructed. And the cost not only of the construction is carried there, but also then the next line down, also the demolition and the removal of hazardous materials. That combined with the site work to develop the context for the building, including the site work includes everything from excavating for the building foundations to landscaping to stormwater management, et cetera, putting the parking down, striping the lot, putting lights in that lot, et cetera. So that gives us a subtotal of, about, $10 million of those raw construction costs. Of course, we know that the construction won't start immediately. It'll be sometime in the future. So we're escalating to a start date of perhaps a year from now and applying 6% of cost escalation to that number. And then a contingency is applied because where we are with design is at the conceptual level. And I emphasize this when we look at the design, this is a conceptual design. There is much more design which will happen later, but we're starting at this point. That's why we have a contingency, because we have drawn a library building, but we haven't drawn enough so that a cost estimator can actually know everything that's going into it. So therefore, we have a contingency to cover the things we know will be part of a project, but which aren't yet showing up in the drawings. So we get about a $10 million, $11 million subtotal. And then there's the contractor's cost to this: general conditions, general requirements and phasing, bonds, insurance, permit fees, et cetera, and the construction management fee as well. So all of that comes down to the very bottom line, which I can't quite see here, of about $13.9 million. And we were really working to design to a budget. As you'll see in one of the later slides, some of the decisions we made in terms of going through the building design and customizing it not only to meet the community needs as we understand them through that robust process of community engagement and developing the building program, but also to meet the budgetary constraints and not to design a building that exceeded the capacity of the community to afford it. So with that, I guess we should go to the next slide, which should be the slide with shows the site plan. And what we see here in a couple of different outline colors here is the red line is the total property that the library has available to it. It's a nice sized parcel, perfectly adequate for our purposes. However, not all of it is buildable area. Part of it is not buildable because there are required setbacks that are set off of the red line to the blue line. And then at the top of the image is also a steeply sloped area, which isn't exactly suitable to build on without a lot of extra investment in the site work. And then down at the lower right, there's an area that isn't deemed buildable because there's an underground stormwater management system in place there. So what we see within the shaded area with the blue outline, that is our buildable area. And you can also, of course, see the existing library there on the lower left. The new concept for the library places an all-new building at the south end of this site. And again, a preliminary conceptual site plan as developed would look something like this. The new building in 1- and 2-story modules is all the way to the right there. Well, not quite all the way, because we're saving some expansion area should the library find it necessary to grow in the future. We're preserving some landscape there to build out to. On that property line, based on the zoning, we can build right up to the line, so we feel comfortable that that is adequate area for expansion behind. And this is the plan. On the next slide. I should go, if we stay on the site for a minute, Christy, that would be great. A couple other things I'd like to point out. There is expanded parking over what there is now. And the site of the library in this rendition of our plan is designated as a park. And that could be nice. It could also not necessarily be a park, depending on how community preferences evolve between now and actual final design. If additional parking is deemed important, that could be whittled away to establish that. So it's a park, but it's also some reserved landscape for additional site improvements. The entrances and exits from the site are in the same place as they are now. There's no change to that. So the access points from the state highway and the road there are going to be exactly the same. The little portion after you come in at the lower right, there's like a staff parking area and delivery area around the back. And there's ample, although not called out in the site plan, there are ample opportunities for a lot of wheelchair accessible parking spaces all along the area, very close to the entrance. So relative to one of the community goals, accessibility, I think that the community will find that this is a much more accessible building in every way than the current facility, starting from the site and working our way on into the building. So next, please, Christy. This is a representation of a ground floor plan of the library. It's we rotated the orientation a little bit here so we could fit it in a large way on the screen. But the entry door is sort of at the bottom middle. And coming through that entry door and vestibule, I'll just walk you through what you'll see in this in the all new library. Dead ahead is going to be the central services desk, and that is going to be a place of orientation when people come in, and also a place to be greeted and served by the librarians and the circulation staff that will be at the desk. And then to the right-hand side of the plan is kind of our noisier, more active areas, and over towards the left, it trends towards the quieter areas of adult services. And then towards the top of the plan is the back of house. At the back of the plan, the operations for the library would be held back there with office spaces, etc. But as we go to, off to the right, the lower right-hand corner is the community meeting room, which is configured to seat 110 people in that space. And one of the nice things we're able to incorporate in this plan is the ability to give that after hours access. So that room and a little vestibule and a little breakout space and the toilet facilities will be part of an after hours space available should meetings run into time periods when the library isn't actually open. And then just above that in the plan is one of the more active areas of the library. And there's one of the concerns for library patrons was that they would be quiet. And that is because the library is a pretty active place. So on this corner of the library, we're accommodating those activities in a way that's kind of isolated from a lot of the other spaces of the library. So we have opportunities for group study rooms, tutoring space, and sort of learning that happens with conversation happening up there in that upper right-hand corner of the plan. And if you look, to the opposite end of the building, there are a lot of seats against windows facing to the, that would be to the east there, at the very opposite end of the building, a place for quiet, and also that's where the computers are. In between, right next to our very active space is the Friends book sale space. Currently they're in the basement of the building, a very tough spot for that activity, and bringing that activity up to the main level will be much more accessible and a much more delightful experience as well for people who are taking advantage of the book sale and its capacities. To the left of that service desk, there's a bunch of relatively low shelving, which has the media collection and the new books. So DVDs and new materials will be housed there. At a height you can pretty much see over into the rest of the adult area from the service desk over to the lower left of the plan. There's a kind of triangular shape, which is the services desk. So that's to go information-based of a reference librarian. They're positioned also to give assistance to people using all of the 25 computers that would be in that area. And then in front of that is all of the adult services collection. There's one other key spot in the plan relative to the kinds of things you're hearing from the community, and that is the quiet study room. There's in sort of a wedge-shaped space between the central block and the block to the left is an actual enclosed quiet study space where it would be absolutely quiet inside there to create opportunities for focused concentrations for people who are looking for that specifically from their library experience. And that is this floor. Now, you'll see to the left of entrance, there's some stairs, and to the left of that is a rectangle which represents where the elevator goes. And those would be the ways to get upstairs, positioned to make it, easy to get to as people are coming into the library. They can immediately orient themselves to where the second level is and get to it without having to traverse much of the rest of the library. And that's important because what we have at this level is children's services and services for teens. Coming off, they arrive an in-between place, which is perhaps not quite teens and not quite kids, but it's a place where families with teens and kids could gather as an active conversation learning place in between the teens on the lower right of this plan and the children's services, which is most of the left-hand side of the plan altogether. So there's an office for a teen librarian, which would be there to supervise the activities of teens in their space, and that and then just in front of that, off to the left-hand side, is the doorway into children's, and I should mention also, of course, that teens has a doorway, and that again helps establish an acoustic buffer between the activities that we imagine going on in these spaces and the other kinds of activities for adults that are happening downstairs. So coming into the children's area, you'd move through a new books and browsing area, and also the circulating musical instruments the library has would be in that area. And again, sort of a triangular shaped thing is a service desk for the children's librarian there with the computers behind them to be of good service to the young computer users, and also to be able to supervise what's going on there. Directly in front of that desk at the bottom of the plan is a sort of a group activity space for older kids, including some tables for sitting and collaborating together as teens doing, or younger or older children, but not quite teens, doing homework together in that space. There was also a family toilet room there, and a nursing mother's room as well. That space is just next to the children's program area, a much larger room that's what's there now, probably 2.5 times that size, accommodating all of the children's programs hosted by the library. Story time and other activities would happen in that space. And then just above that is enough bookshelves to house all of the children's collections. And I guess those are the public spaces on this level. Also at the back of this plan, at the top of it, we'll see more staff spaces. So that's where we'll have the director's office, bookkeeper, assistant director, and some cataloging and other services that would go on at this level. So that pretty much is a walk through the library. And I should say there's also a basement. So on the next plan, we'll see a basement which has storage and mechanical spaces down there. So no public service spaces at the basement level. No patrons should ever need to go to the basement at this new library. That wraps up sort of the walkthrough.
Thank you, Jeff, very much. Christy, do you want to complete the presentation now, or is Eric going to take it? Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Kevin is here. I just want to make sure that we get a chance to show there are some external renderings that Jeff created about what the building could look like, trying to keep it very representative of downtown Southington, but modernizing it a little bit with letting in all the natural light and all those big bright windows. And there is one additional picture, I believe, here.
Hey, Christy, it's Mark Schota. Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
I have to go on the public line. Somebody has their phone on and it's echoing crazy on this line. Hold on. This is Mark Schota. Please put your phone on mute. The reason why I'm hearing an echo back and forth is because your phone is not on mute. Please put your phones on mute. Thank you. Okay, Christy, go ahead.
And then there's this image right here, which is zoomed in on, but it shows what that rendering might look like in 3 dimensions in that particular area of the parking lot. And the final slide that was attached to the packet shows what, let's see, shows, well, it shows what we were, what we wound up here with in terms of square footage with this new building. So it's not quite as indicated, but yeah, I just thought that the rendering there, and you can see it in comparison to the existing building as well.
Very good.
So
thank you. Any questions for Christy or Jeff? I can't see anybody, so Kevin, are you there?
No questions.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Kevin Curtis, Chair of the Library Board. I just want to say a thank you to everybody who helped out with this project. I think we began this process last June, so it's almost been a year that we've been working on this. And we had our planning committee chaired by Joanne Kelleher, and a number of really dedicated people who took a lot of time out of their schedule to help with that. A number of people who just came from the public to go to those planning committee meetings because they had experiences in other library projects around the state, or they had been through referendums and wanted to tell their experience. Thank you to all the library board, of course, and to all the members of Southington at large who came out to events at the library to give input, feedback sessions, information sessions, who participated in surveys. A lot of a lot of people participated in this process, and I appreciate all the hard work and time that people put into it. And thank you to Jeff too for his many trips down from Boston and the drawings and redrawing and all his expertise too.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. Anybody have any questions for Kevin? I don't see anybody, Paul, anybody raising their hand or indicating?
Yeah, Vicky, I just have one question.
Yes, Val. Paulo.
You muted again.
No, we can hear you now.
Okay. With the back area for the expansion, do you have an idea of what the potential square footage that could be added to the building?
Yes, it's about 5,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Chris Palmer.
It's Chris Mary. Then I want to thank you. You were so eloquent in thanking everyone else on your committee, and I just want to thank you for your leadership throughout this process. As you said, it's been about a year, and your communication has been great. I know I speak for Vicky and myself when I say we really appreciate all your communication here, and thank you for your leadership of this project.
Thank you, Chris. That was true. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much, Kevin and Jeff and Christy. We appreciate it. We're going to be talking further about it, but for right now, I'm going to close down your presentation, and we'll probably be talking about a little bit more with the referral for the 824. But thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right. On the agenda, we're going to go on to special committees. The first one is Committee of the Chairs. I'm going to just bring you all up to date. We did have a meeting of the chairs, and it was basically just to chat about the budget and where we were, and the fact that we need to be as conscientious about the budget as we possibly can. So there really wasn't too much decided. It was kind of an informational meeting. And I want to thank all the chairs that participated and were there. So that's really my report on the Committee of the Chairs. There was no big vote or anything like that. It was primarily informational. So let's go right on to open space.
Sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Paul Chaplinsky, and for Chris Palmeri and Jim Morelli, please feel free to interject and add or modify any of the comments here. We had a brief distance meeting earlier on a couple weeks ago. Primary topics we spoke about: Chris Palmeri indicated that he's working with Mark and the LEAF program on grants for continued operations for the LEAF program. We are hopeful that we can try to have an on-site meeting here. If not this upcoming meeting, then hopefully the meeting in May. So we'll have to see how that goes. The goal is to get the entire open space committee to meet on site and tour the LEAF facility. We talked. Well, first of all, thanks, Chris, for talking about view and adding that as an agenda item. So hopefully we'll take a vote later on adopting the master plan that was worked on in the past. We reviewed the parcel maintenance list and how we're going to maintain and hay and handle some of the local farmers to promote farm heritage, but also maintaining the parcels. So we had a nice comprehensive list that staff had put together of some recommendations on who would be maintaining which parcels, and we continue to adapt that. And in concert with that, we're also looking at some new ways of clearing some parcels. One of the areas that we're focusing on, which you might have seen in recent news, is that we're trying to see if we can get some goats to help us clear some of the really heavy invasive species on Novix Orchard. We have two areas there of concern. Although invasives are found throughout the parcel, we're looking at clearing the area adjacent to the existing field, and then also some areas that used to be fields down below that are overgrown now. So we have been in touch with Bradley Mountain and one other as well, who's expressed some interest in having the boats help clear there. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have taken a decision on what we're going to do with those. But good news, we've also had somebody inquire about possibly putting a beehive to complement the pollinator garden at Novik. So we're looking into, could we locate some beehives in a safe area on the opposite side of the field there to continue to promote the pollinator activity at Novix. We are having some reports picking back up about the parking area at Novix. So we are, we're trying to look at ways that we can mitigate some of the loitering and some of the activity that's going on at the Novix parking spot. Dave LaValle has been working to see if we can get some lighting or a camera. He and I had a conference call with a company that does solar cameras that can transmit video and photos back to the police department on a solar powered camera system. So we're hopeful that we can have a proposal there in the weeks ahead. Chris and Jim, anything there that you'd like to add?
Paul, do you just want to talk about the Bradley Mountain goats?
We have been in touch with the Bradley Mountain organization. We're really happy that that they're interested in working with us. Dave LaValle did reach out to them. Of course, they have been on site in the past when we've done walkthroughs of the paths and have walked the trails with us maybe a couple of years ago. So the hope is that they're going to help clear some of the Novix parcel and some of the invasives there. We don't have an exact time frame, but I'm hopeful probably in the month of May to get started on some of this. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
One that you wanted to talk, we have Bradley. There's actually one other party that's interested as well. So we're trying to find an opportunity for both parties to help and to work in that regard.
It's Chris Palmieri. Just to add to that, it really is just a partnership and mutually beneficial for both of us. Obviously, the animals to do some natural clearing to maintain the land, but also to help with the animals as well. So it really is mutually beneficial to all parties if we can reach an agreement.
No, I think you covered it pretty well, Paul.
I think it's a great thing when we work with private, like the private farm with the goats, coming into public land. I think it's a very great partnership is what I'm trying to say. So I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, very good.
We'll share out the entire list of all the farmers who are going to be helping at our next meeting once it's finalized, so that we can show how we're also promoting, and working closely with the farming community here in town as well. So
excellent. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. We're going to move on to Public Works. Mike?
Good evening, Mike Del Santo speaking. We did not have our meeting in March because there was one item, and we thought it best to do it by consensus through email. And it was the on-call for bids for the for paving contractors. So we just did that through an email, and all members were in consensus and yay for the four potential businesses that bid on the jobs. Okay, so that was it, Vicky. Very brief.
Vicky's muted.
Oh, sorry. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Thank you so much, Councilman Del Santo. On to the Apple Harvest Festival.
Can I speak for a second, Victoria?
Yes, of course.
Okay, obviously, someone is not listening to me because I've asked them to mute their phone and it keeps echoing. So I'm getting emails now that people are having trouble hearing it because they're listening to your take and then they have their phone on, so it's feeding back. So once again, if you're listening to the computer, please mute your phone because people are having trouble hearing the council meeting. Thank you. Go ahead, Victoria.
Madam Chair, it's Mike Del Santo. I had one more brief thing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, yes, about the transfer station. Starting
Yes.
this Saturday, the transfer station is going to be open for brush only. We are going to reassess in about a week to see what's going to happen for next Saturday. But this Saturday, the 18th, the transfer station will be open for brush only. They'll, with lots of distancing and, very careful. The staff members down there are going to be very cautious. So there's not going to be any contact. So if I ask if you do have brush to take to the transfer station this Saturday, that you please follow directions and be very, very careful and listen to their directions. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Apple Harvest Advisory Committee. Tom?
Madam Chair, before
Chris has a question.
Yes, Chris.
Before we move on, Mark, can you just update everyone? I know you've said this before, but just for purposes of the meeting, can you share with everyone the plan for their 2020 permit?
Oh, good point. Yep.
I'm sorry, was that question for me?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah.
You or Mark?
I could answer the question, Michael, if you wish. Yeah, as Michael said, the transfer station is going to be open this Saturday for brush only. We're honoring the current permit you have, or even if you do not have a permit, as long as you show your Sykeston driver's license through the end of May.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chris. All right, Tom?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Apple Harvest Committee, we did not hold our meeting last week due to the situation going on, but we did get an update from the festival coordinator, Dave LaPre. He sent out an email with a document. A few things to mention: the portable restaurant RFP, we're going to be going with the same company as last year. They're holding their price. Beverage RFP, we're also going with Coca-Cola again this year. They were the only one to submit. And I think this year we're in a unique situation due to the virus. So we came to a consensus that we are not going to pursue a national act bans to incur the cost this year, just because it's a little bit too much risk for the Apple Harvest Festival in terms of outlaying that much cash without having a firm grip on what our sponsorship revenue and other revenues may be. Now, having said that, we're still going to have great entertainment. It'll just be more local, lower cost options, similar to how we've done prior to the last 2 years. And the last 2 years have been quite successful. So I'm confident that we will get back there at some point. And that's about it. We will be meeting again in May. Chris, I don't know if there's anything else that we need to update the council and the public about on the Apple Harvest front, but planning is underway, and that's about all we have right now.
Just one thing to add to that. Right now, we're kind of putting a pause on recruiting sponsors just because of everything going on. So once we get a little bit clearer direction with the pandemic, then sponsorships will resume at full force.
Right.
Very good. Very good. Any questions for Apple Harvest? Anyone? Okay. Very good. Town managers report.
Madam Chair, with your indulgence, could I have 1 minute? I'm going to notify the public because I'm getting a lot of complaints that they can't hear us because the person is not muted. So I'm going to hang up and I'm going to ask the public to redial in the number. So if I have 1 minute, would that be okay? Madam Chair?
Muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That would be fine. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be hanging up. Please dial in the same way you did last time. Give me 30 seconds. Thank you.
Vicky, you skipped sewer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, sewer. Forgive me.
Hold on.
Mr. Attorney Diedrich, can we shut down Mark's
hold
phone
on.
for a little bit?
Victoria, we gotta wait.
Oh, okay. We'll let Bill Diedrich speak before Mark.
I'll tell you what, if this guy's doing it on purpose, he's driving me crazy. I don't know who would leave their line open, but it's.
Please enter your access code.
Mark, what's the service you're using?
Hold on.
If you know the service you're using, I'll find out what the mute all button is.
The conference will end in 1 minute.
Hold on.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound. The conference will end in 1 minute.
No, it's not.
No, I can't get back in. Which is amazing because it was working fine up until a few minutes ago.
646.
Yeah.
749. 3122.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
699. 70. 341.
If you are the organizer, press the star key now. Please enter your organizer PIN followed by the pound.
This is Mark Schroeder. We're back on.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to go to the sewer committee. Don't go off. And Mark, my suggestion.
I'm not getting any feedback now, so that's good. So
Good. Okay, very good. So can we have a report from the sewer committee, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we did not have our monthly meeting. We had one agenda item, which was essentially a change order that was at a committee level. So there's nothing to report.
Oh, you're so funny. Okay, well, thank you anyway, Councilman Dietzick. Mark, could you bring us into to town manager communication, please?
Sure. The first item I have is the reports of the Board of Finance. They have met 2 times since your last meeting. The first meeting was on September 25th, March 25th. On March 25th, they had a normal meeting. One item was worth discussing, and that's the $77,000 for fire department contracted services for the fire department master plan. Those of you may recall that this came from the fire commission. The council asked us to move it to the Board of Finance for their recommendation, and they're giving you a unanimous recommendation to spend the money for the master plan. Any questions on that? If not, then the second meeting, which was the vital meeting, and that was on March 30th, 2020.
Just a second, Mark. Councilman Poulos, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question about some of the activity for the Board of Finance minutes.
Sure.
Regarding a discussion on 325 about the self-insurance money. As I reported at the last.
I was going to discuss that at the next one, but okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So as I reported at the last meeting on March 18th, the self-insurance committee met and decided not to make, we had a lengthy discussion and decided not to make any adjustments to the budget because of the uncertainty of the health situation in town. When I reviewed the 325 minutes, I noticed that Chairman Labiniak shared those sentiments, gave that same report. And then on the 330 meeting, I noticed that the Board of Education and the town budgets were passed, specifically the town side with $120,000 reduction to self-insurance. There is no line item on the Board of Ed side to reduce that budget by a certain amount by the Board of Finance. However, in a document I received from the Board of Ed, it said that if they would hope for potential relief from self-insurance for $380,000. And so I would suspect that that would be a total of $500,000 reduction. And I guess my question is, in the process, has it been past practice for the Board of Finance to essentially reduce the insurance line item? I know that they don't do it for the Board of Ed, but the Board of Ed is reporting to the Board of Finance that that would be the potential relief number to get their budget reduced. Seeing that the Self-Insurance Committee is a committee of the Town Council, a subcommittee of the Town Council. So I'm just curious about the procedure there. What role do we have as the town? Mr. Lombardi was at that Self-Insurance meeting. We talked to a great extent about keeping it in the same place. What's our role, this Town Council's role in that self-insurance budget line item?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's start with the role of the subcommittee. The subcommittee gives recommendations to the Town Council and to the Board of Finance. Based upon those recommendations, or based upon what the board wishes to do, the Board of Finance then recommends to the Town Council what they would recommend. And in this particular case, they're recommending to the Town Council that between the Board of Education and the government side, we'd be relieved of an obligation of $500,000, $120 on the government side and $380 on the Board of Ed side. That would be finalized, assuming that was approved by the Town Council at your meeting on May 11th.
Very good. Does anyone else have a question for the manager on this? So on the finance report?
Well, I didn't do the second one yet. Hold on. That was
the second one. Please do the second one.
Okay. The second one is from March 30th, and that's where they actually took the votes on the budget. Specifically for the record, they voted $58,076,942 for the general government, which was a reduction of several different items, but the vast majority of it was $288,000, which was a reduction from the capital road widening and drainage account. That's the government budget. The Board of Education budget, as Mr. Poulos already explained, they do not have line item authority on that. So the recommendation was to the Town Council of $100,736,444, which included a recommendation of release of an obligation of $380,000 to the self-insurance fund. Animal control, the recommendation was $258,643. The sewer fund was $5,552,800, and capital improvement just for year one was $31,779,72. As your procedure requires, Chairman Leary will present the budget, which is now the Board of Finance's recommended budget, at your meeting of the 27th. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any more questions on the Board of Finance report?
Sure.
Okay, who's talking?
Well, Chris Palmera had his hand up first.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't see it, Chris. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
That's okay. I just want to share a little bit of concern that Councilman Poulos spoke of earlier. The self-insurance fund, I know we certainly have reduced those lines in the past. However, in light of a medical pandemic, global pandemic, I just have a little concern with using funds from that account. Again, I know we've done it in the past, but this year the world's a little different than it's been in the past. So taking insurance money that could pay for healthcare is just a little concerning, especially considering that it wasn't vetted through the council. And I understand it wasn't even a vote formally at the Self-Insurance Committee.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Chris Palmer, are you all set?
Yes.
Well, I think to Councilman Poulos' statement was that the Self-Insurance Committee did meet, and we did receive professional guidance from our consultant that said $24,750,000 was where our original funding level was at. The projections yielded a lower value by approximately $500,000. However, the Self-Insurance Committee did not want to go lower because we were hesitant due to the virus. Now, having said that, we're not using the self-insurance funds to fund the budget. We just, what's going to happen is that what happened, I want to point out, is that there's 2 members from the Board of Finance that are also on the self-insurance committee. So those 2 members supported the Board of Finance budget, and now it's going to come before the council. So I agree, Councilman Palmer, it is a unique situation, and Councilman Poulos, certainly a unique situation. But I do find it important to point out that there are 2 Board of Finance members on the Self-Insurance Committee, as well as Councilman Poulos and myself on the Self-Insurance Committee. So that's just
Vicky, Madam Chair.
Yes, Chris Poulos.
Sure. Just for the record, and this is where my concern stems. Town's consultant, who in my tenure on the self-insurance committee, has always been quite objective, doesn't weigh in at all in terms of opinion. During that meeting, that public meeting, that while he never comments, he wouldn't touch the line item for self-insurance. And then of those two Board of Finance members that sit on self-insurance, one of those members voted no against both the town and the Board of Education budget on March 30th. So I just want to make it clear that there wasn't like a general consensus of the Board of Finance representation that's on self-insurance at that Board of Finance meeting to say, let's go forward with these budgets. Just to clarify for the record.
Thank you so much, Chris.
I do have one more. I have one more question.
I'm back to you.
Councilman Poulos. So the member that voted no for the budgets because he wanted to go lower, I believe. Is that correct, Councilman Poulos?
That's correct. It's Mark Schoda. That's correct.
Yeah. So my point stands is that I think if the members of the Board of Finance who serve on the Self-Insurance Committee were opposed to that action, they should have reflected it in their discussion at the Board of Finance meeting, which I don't think they did.
Well, I think what we're going to do, I see your hand, Chris Palmieri. I'm going to go to you, Chris Palmieri, for your remarks. I think there may be some room to kind of investigate a little bit more for all of us. We're looking at the Board of Finance minutes, and we're going to move forward with the vote later. But we might want to discuss this further with those 2 members or what have you, so that we get more information with that whole idea of the self-insurance plan. Chris Palmieri, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah. So two things. First of all, a point of clarity to the town manager. If you don't agree with the action specifically related because of the medical pandemic and the self-insurance committee, what would we vote against the Board of Finance minutes? Is that what you would recommend, or ultimately wait until the budget? So then I have something else, but if we can start with that first.
Number one is you're voting on the Board of Finance minutes. That you're not saying you approve of what happened on it. They're giving you the recommendation of how the budget went. So how the charter works is that when Chairman Larry comes at your next meeting, all these questions could be asked of Chairman Larry on the thoughts of the board as they went through. As for the second part of it, the council needs to discuss at the time of you setting the budget the fact of the self-insurance, because you need to take affirmative votes. If for some reason you do not want to cut the town the $120,000, for instance, that would be something that you would have to restore. And of course, that would require 6 votes. With the Board of Education, it's totally different. If you say to them, we're approving a budget of X and we're requiring you to pay the full amount into self-insurance, then they would need to find the money elsewhere. Or you add that to their budget.
Okay. And then the follow-up question, was there a formal vote at self-insurance to make a recommendation to the Board of Finance? So Mark, I'll ask you, was there a formal vote of self-insurance to make a recommendation for the impact to the budget related to that line?
Based upon, I don't go to self-insurance, but based on what I heard at the Board of Finance meeting, there was no recommendation to do anything at this time. And I know there's a meeting scheduled in April, whether something happens at that. So the recommendation is from the Board of Finance, which is under their authority, under the charter. They can give you a recommendation on the budget, but I'm not aware of any formal recommendation from the Self-Insurance Committee.
Thank you, Mark. Chris, I saw your hand. Chris Poulos, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, we did not vote because we said we're going to keep it at the 25.75 that we had originally set it. We didn't make an adjustment, so we didn't vote.
Right. 24.75, right, Chris?
What was that?
It was 24.750.
Yeah, 24.750 is where we had it, and we decided not to do anything, so it didn't require a vote.
And just for the rest of the council members, the self-insurance committee is planning on meeting again on May 20th, which is a Wednesday. And I believe we have a council meeting on Tuesday, May 26th. So certainly we will probably be talking about the same issue again.
Yeah, but it also gives us some time tonight. I think Mark was very clear. What we're doing tonight is just saying that we received the minutes. We're not saying we approve of what was done or what have you. There'll be time for that when we discuss the budget and we move forward as a council on the budget. So it gives us time to investigate this a little bit more and form an opinion. So I think that's important. Thank you, everybody, for the discussion. Mark, anything else before we move on? Okay, so Mark, item B, please.
Okay. You just heard a presentation on the bond ordinance for the library. You received a report from our Director of Finance. The total amount would be 14.1. The additional money would be the bonding costs. You are not voting to move this forward to the voters at this time. The votes you take tonight would be the 824, which is required under the statutes to move it to planning and zoning. And you're also required to send it under our charter to the Board of Finance for a public hearing. And then you would set your public hearing. At the time of the public hearing, you take all the information in, and then you would make a decision based upon where the world is on May 26th. So that's any questions on how the bond ordinance works?
I think Bill Dietzick had just texted me to be recognized. Bill Dietzick, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, I got a question for you. You know, I don't think you've ever been put on the spot for something like this before, and you've remained very apolitical, very impressively. I do have a question about this issue, though. In your professional opinion, is it prudent? Well, let me put it this way. Do you have an opinion? Is it prudent to put a capital project like this forward? I understand it's only an 824 tonight. But given the current circumstances, do you have an opinion?
Well, my opinion is I'm glad that we don't have to make a final decision until the end of May, because if you're going to put me on the spot right now, based upon all the numbers I see coming out of Hartford and obviously the unfortunate numbers from Southington, I'd be hard pressed to recommend it today. With that in mind, we give ourselves a little bit of time, not saying that things will be better at May 26th. But if they're not better, then I'm not sure my opinion would change from what it is today.
So a quick follow-up then, if you don't mind. So when do we incur the bonding costs? So the bonding cost is incurred prior to referendum?
No, you don't incur bonding costs till after it's approved by the voters. And then we start construction, we start using money, and then we don't go out to bond immediately, because obviously we don't go out to bond and sit on the money. We spend the money first and then we go out to bond.
So the only money we would be out is the architectural fee if we don't go forward in this year.
Correct. And then there's the small amount of legal costs that I had to incur to get the documents as you see in front of you. So obviously, if you choose not to go, you don't put it on for referendum. You'd make a decision and say you don't want to go on for referendum this year, and you revisit the issue next year. And that's normally what would happen in a situation like this. Is if the time was not right and you did not want to, if you still wanted to continue with the project, you would continue it to a time certain, probably next November. If the times are still in a situation where we're not financially feasible to put it forward, you would talk about putting out a referendum next year.
Yes, Chris Palmieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo Councilman Dietzig's concerns, and I know as members of the council, we're in a different place now than we were even 3 weeks ago when we had this conversation. So, on behalf of our caucus, Chris Ball and I, we share those very concerns that Councilman Dietzig brought up. Again, knowing that how much has changed even in the last 3 weeks. So, reaching out to Mark today, he shared with me what he shared publicly here, that tonight is just a referral. So while we may be moving forward with the referral tonight, I think it's important to note that we could very well, when it does come back to us at the night of the public hearing, find ourselves in a different place than we are even tonight, and related to the pandemic, and not decide to move forward only because of the economy and what's happening in our own town. So I think it's important to note that. We certainly support the library. It has nothing to do with that, but I mean, the world is a different place than it was even 3 weeks ago. So I think it's important to note that.
Thank you, Chris. I think that some of that has been shared on both sides of the fence, both caucuses. So I don't know. I know Paul had some thoughts. Paul, did you want to mention anything right now?
Hi, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is Paul, and apologies. I am having some problems with my web connections on my phone. The one question I have for the town manager, if this does not go to be referred out today, this meeting, do we have time to wait an additional 2 weeks to our next meeting to gather more information before referring this out? In other words, could we possibly refer it out next meeting and still give planning and zoning time to hear that, make a decision, and send it back so that we can vote on it in May?
The answer is yes, because if today obviously is the 13th, your next meeting is the 27th. The town council would still act on the 26th. The Board of Finance public hearing would be the 13th, and the planning and zoning would move, instead of going this coming Tuesday, we would move it to the 12th of May. So to answer your question, yes. If you wanted to wait to the 27th, my only concern is obviously that's your budget meeting, and I don't like to put a lot of things on at your budget meeting. So that would be, you couldn't wait to the next one, but if you wanted to move it forward to get the opinion of the Board of Finance, which I think is pretty important here, then you could wait to the 27th, but no further than that.
Thank you, Mark. I think that is very important. Paul, did you want to have a follow-up?
I was just going to say, one of the concerns that I have is the perception. One of the questions that I have is, will it be clear to the public that if we move forward today, it's not a binding vote. It's basically saying we want to have the Land Use Department Commission look at it and determine whether it's consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development. I'm concerned that folks in the community might think that it's a green light to go forward when we're still in information gathering mode.
Thank you, Paul. That's good. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Anybody? Val, do you have anything?
Mute.
I don't know if Val is hooked in still.
You're
Okay.
muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Val, do you have anything on this?
I do. I just want to echo, I just want to thank Chris Palmieri for letting you know that that's the way our caucus feels too. I agree that this is something, it's just such an unprecedented time, and there's so much uncertainty that I agree with Paul as well. I don't want there to be a perception that we're trying to move something forward under these circumstances, and however we, clearly support a new library. So I think we're just in a very difficult times.
Thank you, Val. I will speak for our caucus. I think we have all felt the same way. I don't find anyone who is against moving forward with a library. However, at this particular time, Chris, you said it very well, it's unprecedented times. So we will have an opportunity to vote as we wish about bringing it to the 824 forward later on in the meeting. But I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to share their thoughts. So I don't think there's anybody else. Is there anybody else? Okay, very good. Thank you. Mark, could we go on to item C, please?
Item C is a bond ordinance. This is an appropriation of $2,500,000 for the design of a backup well number 10 near well 9. Bill Casarella, I believe, is on the call. This is something that does not affect the taxpayers of the town of Southington per se. This is paid for by the water users on any grants that the water department gets. So, Bill, do you have anything to add? Okay. All right. Let me just, I'll just read what Bill sent me if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Okay. Said if he couldn't get on, he wanted me to read this. All right, Bill. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Council. First, well number 9. Well number 9 is the water department's most critical and highest producing well the water department has. The well was built in 1991 with the production of 2,000 gallons per minute or gallons per day. The original plan in 1991 was to build 2 smaller wells, but due to the cost restrictions, 1 larger well was built. The need for the backup due to reduced production of the well this past summer and the possibility of losing any drinking water peak demand, it is vital that having a backup well or redundant well. This would give the water department options to use backup well if 1 well went down. Needs redevelopment, or we can use both wells to reduce the flow of water, which increase the longevity of both wells. Currently, we have backups for our other major wells, well 2 and well 4. This would give us a backup for well 9. Obviously, the administration supports this. Any questions?
Mark, could I just ask you something very quickly? You, at the very beginning, could you clarify that it doesn't affect the town's budget at all or the town's finances?
Yeah, the water department occasionally comes to the council to request bonding. Under the state statute, the water department is on its own, although it does have connections to the town, but it cannot bond on its own. So therefore, it needs the town to do that. So what we're doing is we're bonding, and all costs of the bond, including attorneys, costs for the principal and the interest, are all paid for by the water department, which, as you know, is paid for by the water users such as myself and other people in Southington who are on the water system. Any questions? Okay, then the last one I have is
Vicky's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I took it off. Thank you.
The last one I have is D, which Mr. Del Santo briefly touched upon. This is the bid for the on-site construction crew. It already went through his board. What we're recommending was all 4 of them get approved. The 2 lowest ones, I believe, are from Southington. So we plan on using them in order based upon cost. So we're recommending all 4 names for that. And I'm not sure if Mr. Del Santo has any other comments. If not.
Mike, do you have any comments? He might be muted.
Sorry, I had to switch screens. No other comments. Mark nailed it.
Okay, great. In that case, that's all I have. And Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to you and to the town attorney.
Thank you. Attorney Taylor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the town attorney, Jeremy Taylor. The first item on my report has to do with the 824 referral of the library bond ordinance. As town councilors and the town manager have spoke about a little bit, this ordinance is mandated by section 824 of the general statutes that it has to be referred to the planning and zoning for their report to see if it works in with their planning and conservation plan. You do probably, as has been told here, to have to refer it to move the process forward tonight, or you could wait till the next meeting, but it is mandatory that you do refer it over to the planning and zoning for their report to keep the process going so that you can vote on this issue in May. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I think we probably asked all the questions we could on that. Does anybody have a further question on the matter? Okay, thank you so much. Item B, please.
The second item is the 824 referral of the water department bond ordinance that you just heard about. As this deals with municipal utilities as well, this needs to also be referred to the planning zoning under 824 to move this forward as for the report back to you. So that's something that you can vote on tonight as well, is the referral to the planning and zoning. Any questions on that?
I don't see any questions or hear any questions. So item C.
All right. Yes, thank you.
Interrupt briefly?
Hang on 1 second. Tom?
Yeah, briefly. We're getting a chat message here from Bill Casarella that he's unable to get into the meeting.
Okay.
To Mark. I don't know if you see the chat.
He just said he's unable to get in.
Okay, okay, I'll just let him, I'll text him and tell him that we already handled it.
He says, I have a question for Mark, he said. Bill texted me a question for Mark.
Mark, you said what you said is correct, Mark.
Oh, that's enough, that's right.
Okay,
Bill joined the meeting without joining audio, so he's in the meeting but has no capability to talk. There's no. So I think if he wants to talk, he's got to drop off and he has to log back in and be sure that he doesn't choose the function to go without audio.
Right, or he could use the call-in number, but it's okay. It's all set.
Yeah, I think we're all set on that.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Okay, so any questions on, we're up to the tax interest deferment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The tax interest deferment. On just a little background, on April 1st, 2020, the Governor of Connecticut issued an executive order number 7S requiring all municipalities by vote of the legislative body to participate in a tax deferment and or a low interest rate tax. There were some discussions between the town's director of assessment and revenue and the town manager on it's the recommendation that the implementing of a tax deferment program is in the best interest of the town of Southington. In short, pursuant to the governor's executive order, beginning and including the July 1st, 2020, the town of Southington shall participate in the deferral program and offer to all eligible taxpayers, businesses, industries, nonprofits, and residents a deferment of 90 days for any taxes on real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle from the time such taxes first become due. This basically means the program will essentially extend the interest-free grace period on any tax payments. Usually they would be due on August 1st or this year, August 3rd, because August 1st is a Saturday. The interest will only be charged on payments made after October 1st. So basically this extends the interest-free grace period from the original 30 days you usually have to 9. Shall not include financial institutions escrowing taxes for residential, commercial, or industrial properties. So if you escrow through your bank, they are still going to be required to pay on that July 1st date or be late payment after August 3rd. The town has decided not to put any restrictions besides what I just mentioned. This program is available for any of the town's taxpayers. So there's not going to be any eligibility requirements, which the town could have set. We thought it was a lot easier and more streamlined just being able to change the due dates to extend it 90 days and not 30 days.
Thank you. I've had a number of asking about that, so that's good. Anybody have any questions on the tax deferment?
I have a quick question.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Doug. Yeah.
So, Jeremy, that's exactly my question. That's how I read it too. So, if you have an escrowed loan, you under the governor's executive order, by by virtue of an escrow loan, you're exempt from the deferment program. You can't call your loan servicer and say, I don't want you to disperse taxes, correct?
Correct. That's how I read the order, and I believe that's how it's.
No, that's how I did it too. I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's kind of what I wanted to hear too. So,
Madam Chair, I have a question. Mike Del Santo.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So, Jeremy, just kind of expand on what Bill had said, because I know that Lou Pearl had asked me, being on the Economic Development Committee, that many businesses in town were questioning this. So, Jeremy, could businesses contact their bank to discuss, the deferment process of the executive order of the governor? I mean, every bank is different, correct? Am I right in saying that?
Well, the way the executive order is written, it's just in the state of Connecticut. That's not what's included in the order. So if you're making your regular mortgage payments to your mortgage company and they collect your insurance, your taxes, that's not something that's covered under here. Those are still going to be expected to pay by these companies. And I think why that's being done is it's just a nightmare to try to get in contact with all these different companies, where it's a lot easier to reach out to individual residents of each town.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. Tom Lombardi, did you have a comment on this?
I just wanted to briefly thank Attorney Taylor for the in-depth description. I also wanted to thank Teresa Babin, the Director of Assessment of Revenue, for the memo that she included with our package. I found that to be very informative and very easy to understand for us, and puts everything out there for an easy decision.
Very good. Does anyone have anything else for the town attorney?
Vicki?
Yes, Val?
Yeah, just a quick question, Jeremy. Will the bill reflect the October 1st date, or will it still reflect the July 1 date?
I am not totally sure on that, but I believe from speaking to Teresa that we are going to change it in the system. So there should be that does tell you that late payments would be after October 1st. I believe that's her intent.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Jeremy. Anybody else for Jeremy Taylor? Hearing none, we're going to move on to old business. Item A, action on the Board of Finance minutes for March 25th, 20 and March 30. Yes.
We need to do public communications.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Was at the bottom of the agenda on my first page. I'm so sorry. Let's open it up for public communications. And
if I may, Madam Chair, I did receive one email, and then I'll open it up to the phone lines in a second. I received an email from Paul Mazzucaro. It's relatively long, so bear with me. To members of the Town Council, tonight you will be voting on a bond referendum for a new library. The new library that is long overdue and sorely needed. The current library was built in 1974, 46 years ago, when the town's population was 33,600. Since that time, the town has changed, and the way residents use the library has changed. Today, the town's population is approximately 44,000, an increase of 33%. That is the number, but perhaps more important are the following numbers. The public use of the library has increased 198%. The library's collection has increased 232%. Attendance at the library programs has increased 479%. The use of the library changed dramatically over the last 15 years or so. This all points to the fact at its current size of 21,000 square feet, the library is grossly undersized for the town's current population. The increased use and types of use. I support, and I believe the community will support, and I ask you to support the unanimous recommendation of the Library Planning Committee for a new library totaling 31,200 square feet with an estimated cost of $16.9 million. This plan came about as a compromise between a 37,000 square foot design that approximately 150 residents saw and two community presentations that provided favorable feedback on before the cost was known, and the 13.9, 25,550 square foot plan you are considering tonight. I cannot support a bond referendum for $13.9 million which only provides for a 4,550 square foot increase over the current library. While the 13.9 million design will provide for a new library, it will not address the identified space needs based upon how many people use the library today, and it will not be a great asset to the community and the downtown area. Also, do not forget that because this design is for a smaller library than originally planned and well below the 44,000 square foot recommended by the state, the town may lose $750,000 of the proposed $1 million grant. This plan primarily addresses the current major problems with the existing building code issues, handicap accessibility, building environmental issues, as well as outdated and overdue end-of-life issues associated with the HVAC system. The town should not move forward with a 13.9 plan simply because that was the number included in the proposed budget. This plan does not adequately fund the library's functional space and programming needs as it is used today. More space is flexible as needed, and if that were provided, maybe the town could get another 50 years out of the new building. I recognize that getting support for a bond referendum in any amount can be difficult. This will be especially true if, at the same time, we also have a bond on the ballot for $10 million for roads and bridge repairs. Significant outreach, education, and effort will have to be made to get either plan approved. All community organizations must be contacted for support. I think the support will be there for the right plan. One piece of good news is that the interest rates are likely to remain low for the near future, and the town will benefit from those low rates. Please consider accepting the library planning committee's recommendation for the 16.9 million design rather than the one proposed by the library board. The 16.9 million is a large number of the library needs and goals and will provide more necessary space, resulted in the buildings more functional, flexible, and usable for the next 30 to 50 years. Thank you. Okay, that was the only email I received. So at this time, I am now going to open it up to the public. Does anybody have any questions? You may take your phone off mute, please say your name and your address. Are there any questions? Last call, are there any questions? All right, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Smartphone connected.
Okay, appreciate your input. Thank you, Mark. Now we're on to old business. Item A, action on the Board of Finance minutes for March 25th and March 30th. We're going to need two separate motions. The background noise is terrible.
Somebody's got to mute their phone.
Can you mute everybody?
I'm working on it.
Okay, that's better. So if you can raise your hand, I'll call a motion. Do we have a motion for item A, board action on the Board of Finance minutes for 3/25/20?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Please raise your hand. There's a second. Now the poll made a second. All those in favor, please raise. There's Jeremy. Do you have your hand raised? Hang on, one everybody. Jeremy had his hand raised. Jeremy,
No, I did it. Sorry.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand so I can see it.
Aye.
Aye. I think it's unanimous. Is there anyone opposed to the motion?
We could use the microphones, Vicky. Council members can use their microphones.
Okay.
Just turn your mics on and off when you're not talking or when you're talking, please. Manage it.
Okay. So is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor for the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? I don't hear any. Any abstention? I don't hear any. Okay, very good. For the minutes for 3/30/20, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. This is Paul.
Paul, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second by Jim.
A second by Jim. Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it's unanimously passed for 3/30/20. Thank you so much. Item B, referral of the 824 to Planning and Zoning for the Library Board Ordinance. There's some hands coming up. So,
Table.
okay, you get a motion to table. Is there a second to a motion to table?
Who was that?
Second. Second.
So Chris, hang on a second. Chris made the Chris Palmieri made the motion to table. Is there a second to table? Raise your hand. I see Chris Poulos raising his hand. Any more discussion on it? This would be the table till when, Chris?
The next meeting, I maybe we'll have a little bit more indication.
That would be the last one we could do.
Yeah. Again, I just want to be clear again. I support the library, but the times are just.
There's no discussion on the table. There's no discussion on the table.
I didn't recognize the discussion. Oh no, we have to call a vote. We have to. It's open for discussion, Mark. We had a motion and a second.
There's no discussion on the table, Victoria. So Chris could table when he makes his motion for table, but once it's seconded, discussion must end.
Thank you, Mark, for that. So, could you call a voice vote on this, please, Mark?
Okay. Mr. Poulos.
Table.
Mr. Palmieri. Mr. Morelli.
Yes.
Mr. Dietzick.
Yes.
Attorney DiPaolo.
Yes.
Attorney Dietzick too. Sorry, Bill. Mr. Del Santo.
Esquire, yes.
Mr. Chaplinsky.
Yes to table.
Vice Chair Lombardi.
Yes to table.
Chair Triano.
Yes to table. That action is tabled until next meeting. Thank you, everybody. Item C, referral for public hearing to the Board of Finance for oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, that's the referral to public hearing to the Board of Finance from Library Board. Go ahead.
Chris as well.
Okay, I have a motion to table from Chris Palmieri. Is there a second? Chris Poulos seconded it. Yeah, let's call the roll on it. Is there any more? Okay. It's a motion to table. So there's no discussion. So would you please call the roll, please?
Mr. Poulos. Mr. Poulos?
He's on mute.
Yes to table.
Okay, Mr. Palmieri.
Yes.
Mr. Morelli.
Yes.
Attorney Dietzick.
Yes, Attorney Shota.
Attorney DiPaolo.
Yes, Attorney Shota.
Okay. Mr.
Yes.
Del Santo. Mr. Chaplinsky.
Yes to table.
Vice Chair Lombardi.
Yes.
And Chair Triano.
Yes to table. Item D, action on scheduling a public hearing.
Motion to table.
Sorry, right, we already had that.
No, it's a
Oh,
separate.
no, it's D, I'm sorry. Action, this is hard, running this thing. Action on scheduling a public hearing for the library bond ordinance for May 25th. And someone, I think Paul had his hand up, Paul? Yep, go ahead.
I'll motion to table.
Is there a second?
Mike Del Santo.
Mike Del Santo had already done it, Val. Call the roll, please.
Just for the record, that's May 26th. The 25th is Memorial Day. But Mr. Poulos.
Yes to table.
Mr. Palmieri. Mr. Morelli. Bill.
Yes.
Valerie.
Yes.
Mr. Del Santo. Mr. Chaplinsky.
Yes.
Vice Chair Lombardi.
Yes.
Chair Triano.
Yes. Okay, item E, referral on 824 to Planning and Zoning for the Water Department bond ordinance. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and Val, you
Yeah.
seconding it?
Second. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any more discussion on this? Referral to the 824 for the Water Department bond ordinance. I hear no discussion, so if you would please call the roll, Mr. Town Manager.
You can do all in favor, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 Any opposition to this, please? No opposition, no, no opposition and no abstentions. The motion carries unanimously. Item F, referral for a public hearing to the Board of Finance, Water Department Bond Ordinance. May I have a motion, please?
Mike Del Santo.
Second, Paul.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the referral to the, for public hearing to the Board of Finance for the Water Department Bond Ordinance is carried unanimously. Item G, action on scheduling a public hearing for the Water Department Bond Ordinance for May 26th. I need a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Attorney DiPaolo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Chris Palmieri, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the action is unanimously approved. Action on the bid for on-site construction crew.
Motion to approve.
I'll say the motion to approve. Mike Del Santo seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No abstentions. Hearing none, that action has been approved unanimously. Action on the tax interest deferment. I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the tax deferment as outlined in our package for option A, which will extend the interest-free grace period any tax payment from July 1st for 90 days, no interest.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Second, we had a second. All those in favor?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'm sorry. So I'm going to have to call the roll on this, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Please do.
Okay. Mr. Poulos,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri, Mr. Morelli,
Yes.
I'm actually going to abstain.
Okay. You, Bill. Mark?
Attorney DiPaolo?
Yes.
Okay, is that a yes for the resolution? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Del Santo,
Yes.
Mr. Japlinski,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lombardi,
Yes.
Chair Triano.
Yes. Just as a side note, I think it will help those that are most needy in our town, so that's wonderful. Item J, adoption. Yes.
I know we had some glitches there, but I just wanted to make sure it was noted. I think it was 801, right? Attorney Dietzick.
Yeah. Attorney Dietzick was an abstention. That's right. Thank you for pointing that out, Paul. Thank you. Item J, adoption of the master plan for development for the Pleasant Street property. Do I have a motion? Paul Chaplinski makes the motion and Chris Palmieri seconds it. Chris, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Any discussion?
If I could.
Yep.
I'd just like to acknowledge members of the Farm Heritage Committee, Co-Chair Ed Pocock, along with John Myers, formerly CEO of the Y, and the current CEO Mark Pooler, who took over in his absence, for all their work with this document that's before you.
Yes, that's right. And you were also included in that, Chris. They did an awful lot of work on this, so we appreciate it very much. Any other discussion on it? Hearing none, could we please call the roll on this?
Madam Chair, one more comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a question.
Yes, one more discussion point. Councilman Palmero did a great job during the last council of explaining this master plan. I think it's important for the council and the public to understand that it is a master plan, it is a roadmap for the future. However, any capital improvements that are made on the projects have to go through all the normal channels that the town does capital projects. So thank you to Councilman Palmieri and former Councilman Pocock and the rest of the team that worked on this, and most recently Councilman Kalinsky. But it's important for the public to understand what this is. You know, nothing is set in stone at this point. It's just a game plan.
That's
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Paul. Just to piggyback on that, this is not a commitment to do any of the spending. It's a guideline for us for the future, so that when we are ready to set the wheels in motion, we could look at capital improvements. We could raise money through private donations. So if we do have some efforts in these regards, you know, even if we want to start raising some private funds, we just would do that in accordance with the plan. And of course, if the plan needs to be modified in the future, the council can take that up as an ad hoc. But for now, this is a great roadmap for us for that site for the future, and I think it's a really nice plan.
Terrific, very good. Anything else? Yes, Chris Palmieri.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things to solidify that point. The way I described it last time, it's a living, breathing document. It's not meant to be a finalized thing. It's certainly a roadmap for a conceptual plan for that site. And although there are dollar figures in there that were estimates at the time Malone and McBroom prepared it, that does not necessarily mean that that's how much anything would cost, nor is any of that money in the budget that we're going to be approving in about a month. So just to drive home that point, there is nothing in the budget that is in this plan already. I'd also like to acknowledge one of the things that is in the plan that that we're very fortunate and thankful for. The construction class at Southington High School actually already built a barn for us that would transport. That it's actually at the high school and it was ready to go, and then we've been shut down. So hopefully we can get some. And I want to thank the high school for their contributions, and that really it was built with no cost except for the supplies, which we received from an outside donation. So hopefully we can continue that trend, and I think this is a great step forward.
Great. Anybody else? Hearing none, let's call the roll on this. Mark, please.
Pulis.
Yes.
Palmieri.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Music. Hello.
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
Japlinski.
Absolutely.
Lombardi.
Yes.
Briano.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. That's good. New business tax refunds.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the tax refunds as outlined in our packet.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Paul.
Paul. Thank you, Paul. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Now the appointments. There's a Conservation Commission, 2-member Conservation Commission for a 4-year term. We are going to reappoint Jeffrey Crown, and we're also making a new addition, William Kowalewski. Bill is the executive director of Southington Care. He's a Southington resident and very much concerned about conservation and keeping Southington the best it possibly can. I want to just take a minute to thank Sherry for all of the work that she's done over the last 4 years. And so those are the appointments for the Conservation Commission. Do we have any other business that it needs to come before this council this evening? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to unplug.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second to adjourn? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone.